Starting off at number 10, the Voodoo Caves. Located in the Beaver Dam Mountains is a pipe known as the Voodoo Caves. According to local lore practitioners of dark magic performed countless rituals inside the pipe, leaving behind an evil residual energy that curses or takes the lives of those who enter. It's believed if anyone within the cave insults Satan or makes any derogatory remarks about the entity that lurks there, they will find themselves trapped inside by rising water. The malevolent force got the blame for the passing of a worker who went inside the underground pipe to remove a clog when he got pinned down and drowned. Now at number 9, Bear Lake Monster. The urban legend of the Bear Lake Monster goes back to at least 1868, when desert news reporter Joseph C. Rich ran a series about the serpent-like creature. The series quoted many well-known citizens who all claimed they'd seen the monster. However, in 1888, Mr. Rich admitted that he'd made all the stories up. The legend continues, however. Every so often, someone does claim they have seen the Bear Lake creature, which coincidentally resembles the Loch Ness Monster legend in Scotland. Here at number 8, the legend of Lillian Gray. In the middle of Salt Lake City Cemetery sits a gravestone reading Lily E. Gray, June 6, 1881 to November 14, 1958. Accompanied by the very ominous phrase, "Victim of the Beast 666. Lillian remains a mystery, and her headstone forms the source of wild tales of her being a sacrifice to Satan, or that she herself was a Satanist. Some have speculated that she was another innocent woman accused of witchcraft. Another theory, because Utah is clearly full of ominous places, proposes she died on Highway 666, which is also one of the country's most infamously dangerous freeways. Coming in at number 7, Skinwalker Ranch. The Sherman Ranch in Ballard, Utah is better known to locals and paranormal investigators as the Skinwalker Ranch, or the UFO Ranch. The name comes from the alarming number of alleged skinwalker sightings and reports of paranormal and UFO-related phenomena. The 40-acre ranch borders the Indian reservation and has a history of mutilated cattle, spirit orbs, unidentified objects hovering in the sky, and what's been described as a large, red-eyed beast similar to the Native American depictions of skinwalkers, half-human, half-animal monstrosities. Now coming in at number 6, the ghost of Red Lopez. In early 1915, Bingham miners began hearing a voice, supposedly the ghost of Raphael Red Lopez. According to an article in the February 2nd, 1915 edition of the Ogden Daily Standard, Lopez was a miner who shot and took the life of another miner in November 1913. He also reportedly took the life of Bingham's police chief and 2 sheriff deputies in an ambush later that day. A week later, he then reportedly took the lives of 2 other deputies during a manhunt for him that lasted into 1914. But Lopez was never found or heard from again in Utah. It's still one of the state's largest crime mysteries that wasn't closed until 2003. Back in 1915, the report stated that the workers began to be terrorized during the past few days by the shoutings of a gloomy voice in an area of the mine where 2 of the deputies passed away. Halfway at number 5, teen in a tanning bed. The urban legend about the bride cooking herself in a tanning bed circulated all over the country, but it allegedly originated in Utah with a teenage girl. The story begins with a 17-year-old winning a trip to Hawaii, and naturally she wanted to get bronzed before her trip. Though limits exist for how long and how often you can sit in these tanning beds, the girl, however, supposedly found a way around this rule by hopping around town to town to different salons, 4 to be exact, in just one afternoon. She eventually ended up in Utah Valley Regional Medical Center because her internal organs were shutting down and she went blind from cooking herself all day. Now, a reminder, this one is just an urban legend. Now at number 4, the Lady in Purple. Over the years, many people have claimed to have seen a woman dressed in purple who appears angry or unhappy inside the Rio Grande Depot in Salt Lake City. In 2017, Rio Grande Cafe manager Colleen Murphy told KSL-TV she has seen lights come on at night in a locked room at the bottom of a stairwell with nobody seemingly there to turn them on. She also said that she had been locked out of the building on multiple occasions late at night, with no real explanation. Others have told her they've heard singing at night, coming from the woman's bathroom in the depot, even when the building is seemingly empty. As the legend goes, the woman tossed her engagement ring onto the tracks during an argument with her fiancé at the depot. Deciding she had made a mistake, she jumped down to retrieve the ring when she was struck and unfortunately passed away by an oncoming train. Now at number 3, the inmate. Salt Lake Herald-Republican on January 8, 1905 reported a frightening tale from the Salt Lake City jail. 2 women at the jail reported they had seen a ghost there, walking the halls at night. The ghost was a man who wore a slouch hat pulled over his eyes and would peer through the grating in the building. They told the newspaper that the ghost was that of a former inmate who had died there in a gruesome manner. On one particular night, one of the women said that she heard a ghost noise by a door, then walked up and asked if it was indeed the dead inmate. "Ain't you dead?" she asked. By way of reply, the ghost began to prance up and down the narrow hallway, swinging his arms and smiling, laughing, and shaking his head. While they never saw the man the day he died, they told the newspaper they were convinced it was him. Now at number 2, the Devil's Highway, kinda like what we mentioned before. The highway system, originally named Route 666 and nicknamed the Devil's Highway, crossed through an area of the United States known as the Four Corners, the meeting space of Colorado, Arizona, New Mexico, and Utah. All 4 states have reported paranormal experiences while on this stretch of highway. Tales range from hellhounds chasing alongside cars and slashing tires, to skinwalkers shifting from animal to man before their very eyes, to an evil shaman who appears in the backseat to steal the driver's soul. Like many roads, Highway 666 also hosts a ghostly hitchhiker, a mysterious young woman in a nightgown walking the road alone. When someone tries to offer her a ride, she vanishes. A popular legend attached to the Devil's Highway is that of a mad trucker, a phantom semi-truck that terrorizes late-night drivers before disappearing. One witness reported her husband's experience. Allegedly, he was driving on Route 666 one night when a semi-truck began heading straight for him down the middle of the highway. He said the truck had to have been going around 130 miles per hour, with sparks and flames flying up from the wheels. He pulled off the road in time to miss what he thought would be a fiery collision, and the beast of a vehicle took off into the night. Now coming in at number 1, the haunted Old Main. Everyone who has passed through the Southern Utah University campus has heard the lore of Virginia Loomis and Old Main, a building on the university's campus. As the legend goes, Virginia Loomis's life was taken in the late 1800s. Her body was discovered on the boulder used to make many of the bricks to construct the Cedar City building in 1898. It's said some of the bricks even contain her blood. Later in life, a janitor was hired at the university. On his first day of work, he was allegedly lighting the old coal furnace in Old Main's basement when something caused the furnace door to slam shut on his arm. He was supposedly burned until he passed away, unable to get free, becoming the human torch that burned Old Main to the ground in 1948. It's said that the ghost of Virginia was seen laughing in the flames, and Virginia was written on the janitor's skull.
With the number 10 spot, we're at the Goldfield Hotel. With a population of less than 300 people, this ghost town is bound to have something haunted within it. And guess what? It does. So this town got its name because it was discovered in 1902 because of a gold rush. As with many gold rush towns, when the gold went away, so did the people. Then in 1923, a fire engulfed the entire town, leaving the hotel standing alone. This hotel is now a symbol of what used to be, and many visitors claim that it's haunted by the former townsfolk. One of the most notorious spirits found in the hallways of the hotel is a woman named Elizabeth. Legend has it Elizabeth became pregnant with George Wingfield, which was one of the hotel's first owners' child. When he found out, he chained Elizabeth to a radiator in room 109 of the hotel. He supplied her with food and water until she gave birth. Some say Elizabeth passed away shortly after giving birth, and ever since you can hear a baby and her woman crying from room 109. At number 9 spot, with the Clown Motel. If you have a fear for clowns, this motel is probably the last place you want to sleep at. This hotel has an obvious theme for clowns, and this was because the father of the owner was a clown collector and ended up being buried at the cemetery, which is located right beside this motel. Motel and cemetery, probably not the most appealing combination. Not only does each and every single room have all types of different clown decorations, but past owners and workers have claimed that it was haunted since the time it was built. They would recall hearing footsteps and voices coming from unoccupied rooms. Even on their website, they have different rooms and the spiritual encounters in each and every single one of them. Because of this, they have a disclaimer which reads, quote, "By visiting the Clown Motel, you acknowledge that you may encounter interaction with spiritual and or unexplained phenomena and or other unexplainable, unusual, or paranormal activity or interactions, which may include risk which may or may not be foreseeable. The Clown Motel will not be held liable for any bodily damage, injury, or personal property, emotional distress, death, or other harm caused by aforementioned." Many others have visited this hotel, and many other YouTubers have documented their trip, but you must be a clown to step into this one. Haha, no, anyone? No? Okay. At number 8 spot, we have the Lovelock Cave. Located in the middle of Churchill County, the Lovelock Cave is one of those discoveries that makes you question our history a little bit. In 1911, 2 miners were sent to this cave to search for bat guano, which is just bat poop for those who don't know. They would collect loads of this stuff, but eventually as they got deeper into the cave, they began to discover things like baskets, shoes, and even skeletons of humans. The craziest part about this is that it claimed that the skeletons of the humans were giants. I don't mean like 7 feet beings like Shaq, I mean like 10 to 15 tall beings. Local legend claimed that the local Paiute tribe was once at war with cannibalistic giants. The tribe was able to fight them back and trap the giants in this cave. They then filled the cave with deadly smoke to suffocate the rest of the giants in there. Even though bones have not been formally documented, it could be hidden from the public. Who knows? At number 7 spot, we have Tahoe Tessie. On the border of California and Nevada lies the beautiful Lake Tahoe. Legends from the Paiute tribe talk about a serpentine beast who lives in an underwater tunnel beneath that very caves. Then in 1959, a police officer named Mickey Daniels reported that something large rocked his boat while he was fishing with a friend at Lake Tahoe. And it was a cause of concern because his boat was 43 feet long. So something huge must have shaken it up. Except there's no sort of whales in Tahoe, so many claimed it was actually the beast Tessie. They believe Tessie to be around 80 feet long and to be as thick as a telephone pole. Many claim it has relations to the Loch Ness Monster in Scotland, and if you see these two side by side, they honestly look like brothers. Regardless, just be wary of what lies underneath the depths next time you swim at Lake Tahoe. Sometimes the beauty in the area may be deceiving. At number 6 spot, we have Virginia City. So this whole city inside Nevada is considered to be haunted. Yup, a whole city. This place started off as a mining town and was one of Nevada's fastest growing cities, but in 1875 a fire engulfed everything within 9 hours, leaving more than 2,000 structures destroyed, hundreds homeless, and over 300 passed away. Now it's said that the spirits roam the entire town, haunting every single building within it. For example, the old Gold Hill Hotel is said to have the ghosts of children running the halls and scents of rose when spirits are nearby. The Silver Queen Hotel is allegedly haunted by one of the former workers. It's said that her spirit grabs people's hair and attempts to trip them down the stairs. Then in the St. Mary Arts Center, which was built in 1875, the same year of the fire, it's said that they offer paranormal investigations, including seances inside of the building. Right in the hump of our list, we have Bally's Casino and the MGM fire. Let's take a gamble and talk about the infamous fire that claimed the lives of many in the Las Vegas Strip. On November 21, 1980, in the world-renowned MGM Grand, a devastating fire engulfed the place, with it being the second largest loss of life hotel fire in the history of the US, with over 87 people passing away and 700 injured. During the fire, no alarms rang, and to make matters worse, sprinklers weren't even installed in all parts of the building. 8 months after, and the MGM Grand Hotel was rebuilt and reopened to the public. But ever since, visitors claim all sorts of paranormal activity. This includes ghostly apparitions on the same casino floor as the site of the fire, with some reporting that the ghosts are actually still gambling to this day, which is attributed to their last mortal moments before their passing. At number 4 spot, we have Area 51. Couldn't mention Nevada without Area 51. If you haven't been living under a rock, then you must know that this place is a potential alien hotspot. Many people believe this is a place where the government does secret tests with alien technology, and some claim that they keep aliens captive here. The most popular case was from Bob Lazar, who have claimed to work in Area 51 and said that he saw a UFO firsthand, describing it in very specific details. This led many to believe in his theory, and for probably forever, Area 51 will always be associated with alien activity until the US government tells me otherwise. At number 3 spot, we're the Flamingo Hotel. Until this violent murder 6 months after its opening in 1947, the Flamingo Hotel was the pride and joy of notorious mobster Bugsy Siegel. Siegel took over the final phases of construction and convinced more of his underworld associates, such as Meyer Lansky, to invest in the project. Siegel reportedly lost patience with the project's rising costs, and he once mentioned to the builder Del Webb that he personally killed 16 men on the job. However, some claim that he decided to stay indefinitely. Bugsy has allegedly been seen at the Garden Memorial, inside the wedding chapel, and roaming around the presidential suite, which still has the gold bathroom fixtures from his original room. Guests in his suite have reported hearing whispering and seeing dark shadows looming at the foot of their beds. At number 2 spot, we're the Mob Museum. At a time, Las Vegas was controlled by the mob, and some believe they still do. So it's no surprise a museum of mob activity was built to recognize some of the horrific acts they committed. All of their exploits are documented at this mob museum, renovated from the same downtown courthouse where many of these characters were prosecuted. As you can imagine, they weren't too happy about their jail sentences, and some say their spirits still roam the halls after hours. The supernatural energy is especially strong near an exhibit dedicated to the St. Valentine Day massacre, featuring a brick wall from a parking garage where 7 Chicago gangsters were shot dead in 1929. All the way at a number 1 spot, we have La Plaza Mansion. Although this property is pretty well put together, once you know about its past, you'll definitely look at it differently. It got such a bad rep, it eventually was considered to be Satan's mansion. Built in 1959, this now abandoned building was home to a threatening gangster. Here in this house, he would organize many of his hits. He would also execute others in that home, and he kept many people captive inside of the basement and the attic. So as the years went by, the house claimed more and more lives, eventually to a point when it reeked of the paranormal. Everyone who moved into the La Plaza Mansion reports a presence of negative energy that hangs over everything. And that's just where the haunting begins. If you visit, be prepared to hear whispers saying get out of here or kill her. And sometimes you might have some piece of furniture or decoration thrown at you aggressively. At a number 10 spot, we have the LaLaurie Mansion. According to the story, the LaLaurie Mansion in New Orleans was home to a wealthy and socialite named Delphine LaLaurie, who was known for her lavish parties, but on the other side, she was also known for her cruel treatments of her slaves. The legend of LaLaurie Mansion began in the early 1800s when Delphine was rumored to have inflicted terrible atrocities on her slaves. This included torture, mutilation, and even murder. It is said that she kept a secret room in the mansion where she performed these horrific acts, and that the ghosts of her victims still haunt the property to this day because of this. One of the most famous stories associated with the mansion involves a fire that broke out at the property in 1834. As the fire raged, neighbors and passerbys reported seeing slaves who were chained and shackled, screaming and begging for help from the windows of the burning mansion. When the fire was finally extinguished, the bodies of several slaves were found in the ruins, including one who had been hanged and another one who had been disemboweled. Over the years, the LaLaurie Mansion had gained a reputation as one of the most haunted houses in the United States, and it's said to be visited by ghost hunters and paranormal investigators from all over the world. Even Nicolas Cage owned the home for some reason, but probably because of the infamous story around it. Many claim to have experienced strange and unexplained phenomena at the mansion, including unexplained noises, cold spots, and the feeling of being watched. Some have said that they've seen the ghosts of Delphine LaLaurie's victims wandering the halls of the mansion, still trapped in their chains and shackles that held them captive in life, and now it holds them captive in death as well. Many people are drawn to the mansion out of morbid curiosity, hoping to catch a glimpse of the ghosts that are said to inhabit it, while others are simply drawn to the dark and eerie history of the property. Regardless of the reasons, the LaLaurie Mansion remains a fascinating and mysterious place and will be forever remembered as the most haunted home in New Orleans. At a number 9 spot, we have the Grunch. The Grunch Road Monster is an alleged chupacabra sighting in New Orleans, Louisiana that has captivated the imagination of local residents for centuries. The Grunch is described as an elaborate cross between a canid and reptilian chupacabra and is said to be more intelligent and adaptable to its surroundings than its counterparts in other parts of the world. According to the local folklore, the Grunch has leathery or scaly skin with sharp spines or quills running down its back, and it stands at a height of 3 to 4 feet tall. It is said to have a strong and unpleasant smell, and they are said to be able to use tools and open doors like primates. Some reports have suggested that it has wings and a tail as well. The Grunch is known for its aggressive behavior and has been reported to attack animals and humans alike, leaving behind mutilated corpses. There are various stories about the origins of the Grunch, including a legend involving a voodoo queen named Marie Laveau. According to the story, Marie Laveau castrated the devil baby when he was born, and the result was a male and female Grunch falling to the floor. The Grunch then attacked Marie Laveau, nearly killing her before disappearing. The legend is said to be the reason why Marie Laveau gave up her voodoo practices and returned to being a good Catholic woman. At number 8 spot, we have the Rougarou. The legend of the Rougarou has been part of the folklore of the Cajun people of Louisiana. This mysterious creature is said to roam the swamps and bayous of the region, preying on those who dare to venture out into the wilderness at night. According to the legend, the Rougarou is a werewolf-like creature with the ability to transform into a wolf or human at will. It is said to be incredibly fast and agile, able to move through the dense undergrowth of the swamp with ease. Some versions of the legend describe the Rougarou as a supernatural being that is cursed to roam the earth, while others portray it as a human who has made a pact with the devil in exchange for the power of transformation. The Rougarou is said to be a formidable and terrifying creature to those who encountered it, and those who have seen it in real life have said it had glowing red eyes, sharp teeth, and a bloodthirsty desire for human flesh. Those who encounter the Rougarou are said to be at great risk of being attacked and dying. And many people in the Cajun community still take great care to avoid the swamps and bayous at night for fear of encountering this creature. Despite its reputation, the rougarou is also a powerful symbol in Cajun folklore. It is often used to warn people of the dangers that lurk in the wilderness, especially not to visit them at night. Some people believe that the rougarou is a real creature that exists in the wetlands, while others just see it as a myth or a symbol of the unknown. Regardless of whether or not it's real, the rougarou remains an important part of the cultural heritage of the Cajun people, and its legend continues to be told and passed down through the generation. Number 7. The vampire Comte de Saint-Germain. The legend of Jacques Saint-Germain, also known as the Count of Saint-Germain, has captivated and puzzled people for centuries. According to the legend, Saint-Germain was a mysterious and charismatic figure who appeared in New Orleans in the 1900s and claimed to be a descendant of the Comte de Saint-Germain, which was a historical figure from the 18th century with ties to King Louis himself. The Comte de Saint-Germain was rumored to be immortal and not to age past 40, and it was suggested that Jacques Saint-Germain was also immortal, suggesting that he may be a vampire. In addition to his supposed immortality, Saint-Germain was also rumored to exhibit vampire-like behavior. One instance of this was when he allegedly attacked a woman and bit her neck, causing her to jump from his balcony to escape. When the police arrived to investigate, they found bloodstains on tablecloths throughout his home, as well as bottles mixed with wine and blood. Even at parties, Saint-Germain was never reportedly seen eating and was always holding a glass of red liquid, which some people suspected was blood. Despite these strange occurrences, Saint-Germain remained a respected and well-liked member of the community. However, he eventually disappeared as mysteriously as he arrived, leaving behind only a trail of rumors and legends. To this day, the true identity and nature of Jacques Saint-Germain remains a mystery. While some believe that he was a real person with supernatural powers, others believe he was just purely a legend and a myth. At a number 6 spot, we have the Carter brothers. The city of New Orleans is known for once having the Carter brothers named John and Wayne. These two men are said to have been vampires sometime in the 1930s. According to the legend, the pair would capture their victims and hold them in their shared home, where they would drain and drink their blood. So one day in the early 1930s, a young girl managed to escape from the Carter home and ran frantically down the streets until a police officer spotted her. She told the officer that she and others had been held captive in the Carter house with their wrists cut to enable a slow bleed. The girl either took the officer back to the Carter home or was rushed to the hospital, depending on the version of the story. When the police arrived at the Carter home, they discovered the bodies of over a dozen victims with their wrists slit and their blood drained. There are also at least 4 captives still tied up and bleeding from their wrists at the home. Some of the bodies were wrapped in sheets and all appeared as though they had been there for extended periods of time. In some versions of the legend, the police left 10 of their largest officers in the apartment to take on the alleged vampires when they returned to feed at night. When the brothers returned home that night, it reportedly took 7 to 8 officers to subdue them. Upon their arrest, the Carter brothers allegedly admitted to becoming vampires and asked to be killed, as they would continue to capture and drink the blood of their victims. They were tried and executed for their crimes, but many believe that they continue to haunt the streets of New Orleans, taking their place in the city's grand lore. The legend of the Carter brothers serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of monsters hiding in plain sight and the horrors that can lurk within the walls of even the most normal looking homes. In the hump for our list, we have the Bonnie and Clyde ambush site. The Bonnie and Clyde ambush site is a location where the notorious criminal duo Bonnie Parker and Clyde Barrow were ambushed and killed by law enforcement in 1934. The site is located in Bienville Parish, Louisiana, near the town of Gibbsland. Bonnie and Clyde were known for their string of robberies and murders during the Great Depression, and they became infamous as symbols of the era's lawlessness and social upheaval. On May 23, 1934, Bonnie and Clyde were driving through Louisiana when they were ambushed by a group of law enforcement officers who had been tracking them down for months. The officers fired over 130 rounds at the couple's vehicle, killing them both. Bonnie and Clyde's bodies were then taken to a funeral home in Arcadia, Louisiana, where they were publicly displayed before being buried in Dallas, Texas. Ever since, the ambush site has been a popular attraction, but not for all the good reasons. Because it's reported that on a full moon, you can still hear gunshots and faint screaming from the area, as though the incident is playing out again and again in some other dimension. At a number 4 spot, we have the Voodoo Queen. Mary Laveau was a well-known figure in New Orleans, Louisiana in the 19th century. She was a powerful and influential figure in the city's voodoo community and was often referred as the Voodoo Queen. Laveau was born in New Orleans in 1801, and she was descended from a long line of voodoo practitioners. She was known for her knowledge of herbal medicine, and she was said to be able to cure a variety of ailments through the use of various potions and spells. Laveau was also said to have the ability to communicate with the spirits, and many believe that she had the power to cast spells and curses on those who crossed her. Despite her reputation as a powerful and feared figure, Laveau was more so known for her charitable works and her willingness to help those in need. She was known to provide assistance to the poor and the sick, and she was highly respected within the voodoo community. Laveau's influence and fame extended beyond the voodoo community, and she was known to be visited by the people of all walks of life, including politicians and celebrities. She passed away in 1881, and ever since, many claim that if you visit her grave at the St. Louisville Cemetery and place a rose on her grave at midnight, there's a good chance your body will begin to levitate. At a number 3 spot, we have Le Faux Follet. Le Faux Follet, or the Will-o'-the-Wisp, is a term used in Louisiana folklore to describe a ghostly light that is said to appear in swamps, marshes, and other remote or isolated areas. According to the local legend, it is a mischievous spirit that lures travelers off their path or into danger, often with the intention of causing them harm. In some versions of the legend, it is said to be the spirit of a person who passed away from violent or premature death and is unable to rest until it has fulfilled some unfinished business or desire. This spirit is said to manifest itself as a glowing light that moves erratically and seems to have a life of its own. In some versions of the legend, it is simply a malevolent entity that delights in causing confusion and chaos for others. Despite its reputation, it is often depicted as a small glowing light that is difficult to discern from a distance. Some believe it can only be seen to those who are lost or in danger, while others claim that it appears only at night or in a foggy or misty condition. Many believe it is a sign of danger or misfortune, and that encountering it is a telltale sign of bad luck or even death. At number 2 spot, we have the Myrtles Plantation. The Myrtles Plantation in St. Francisville, Louisiana is a historic plantation home that is rumored to be haunted by the ghosts of former slaves who were executed on the property. Built in the late 1700s, the plantation has a long and dark history, including several instances of murder and violence. One of the most well-known ghosts at the Myrtles Plantation is said to be that of a former slave named Chloe, who was executed by her fellow slaves after she was caught eavesdropping on their conversations. She is said to haunt the plantation house, where she is often seen walking through the rooms and the corridors. Some people have reported seeing her ghost, while others have reported hearing strange noises and feeling a presence in the house. Adding on to the tragedy of the home, the plantation's original owner, Clark Woodruff, was poisoned by his wife, who was later acquitted of her crime. Then another former owner, Judge Hardy, was shot and murdered on the property. These events, along with the many other tragic stories associated with the plantation, are said to contribute to its reputation as a haunted house. No wonder this is a haunted house. At a number 1 spot, we have the Honey Island Swamp Monster. The Honey Island Swamp Monster is a cryptid that is said to inhabit the Honey Island Swamp in Louisiana. It is described as a large humanoid with brown or black fur, long arms, and a barrel-shaped body. Some reports have described the creature as having the face that resembles a monkey or a human, while others have described it as having a more reptilian or amphibious appearance with alligator qualities. The legend of the Honey Island Swamp Monster dates back to the early 20th century, when it was first reported by a group of hunters who claimed to have encountered it by the swamp. Since then, there has been numerous reports of the creature reported by people who claim to have encountered it while exploring the place or living in the surrounding area. It was blamed for the many human and livestock deaths that occurred around this area, and ever since, people feared this monster to the point that they wouldn't even enter anywhere close to these swamps. There's been various theories proposed to explain the existence of this monster, including the possibility that it is a surviving population of a prehistoric creature, or even a new species of animals that has yet to be discovered by science. Others believe that the creature was raised alongside alligators from a homeless orphan who lived in the area. Regardless, the Honey Island Swamp Monster remains a mystery and is feared by everyone who lives near it. At a number 10 spot, we have the Devil's Chair. I mean, just by listening to the name, you already know there is zero goodness in this chair. So numerous physics and clairvoyants meet up year-round in Cassadaga, Florida, which is known as the state's spiritual hub to showcase their talents. Specifically, they meet up in Lake Helen Cemetery. As expected, this spiritual retreat is a hive of spiritual activity, but one place in particular is said to give you the shivers. The Devil's Chair of Cassadaga is a big brick chair, and it's so-called haunted because many locals think that if you sit in it late at night when no one is present, the devil will come and visit you. The chair is said to be the a way for the devil to communicate with you, but the odd thing is that the devil actually enjoys a cold one, you know, a beer. It's said that if you leave an open beer on this chair, it will be empty in the morning. So just to be sure, make sure you don't take a little rest in the cemetery, because it could be a terrifying experience.
Now at number 9, the Florida skunk ape, also known as the swamp cabbage man. The stink ape has been said to inhabit Florida, North Carolina, and Arkansas. The stories date back to the 60s and 70s, during the time of the Bigfoot mania, when the ape-like creature running on 2 legs was spotted in South Florida. The creature gets its name from its pungent odor, said to be a byproduct of living alongside alligators and other swamp inhabitants. There's actually an official skunk ape research headquarters in Okeechobee, where a researcher collects and investigates reports of swamp ape sightings.
At our number 8 spot, we have the grave of the Tallahassee Witch. The Old City Cemetery in Tallahassee, Florida is not your regular graveyard. In this cemetery lies a supposed witch. Yes, a real witch. The witch went by the name of Elizabeth Budd Graham, or Bessie, who was only 23 when she passed away in 1889. Her tombstone is the most expensive and the most noticeable. It has this nice stone wall with large granite vases, sculpted feathers, and a cross inside of a crown. The legend goes that Elizabeth bewitched a wealthy man into marrying her, and this is why her tombstone looks like this. The scary thing is that her tomb has a dark witch references chiseled all around the stones. A lot of the writing is written in unique poem-like fashion, but some witch references she made was doubly dead, which means that a witch can only be dead once and killed twice. Others who visit the tombstone report feelings of unease, and they often report strange individuals leaving items at the tomb. To this day, it's said that the fellow witches often visit the grave to leave gifts for Bessie.
Now at number 7, Spook Hill. In Lake Wales, there's a gravity hill that freaks out those traveling through by car. Stop your car in the right place on Spook Hill, put it in neutral, and watch as your vehicle rolls up the hill. On North Wales Drive, a sign says this: many years ago, an Indian village on Lake Wales was plagued by raids of a huge gator. The chief, a great warrior, killed the gator in a battle that created a small lake. The chief was buried on the north side. Pioneer mail riders first discovered their horses laboring downhill, thus naming it Spook Hill. When the road was paved, cars coasted uphill. Is this the gator seeking revenge, or is the chief still trying to protect his land?
At our number 6 spot, we have Robert the Doll. Now, I did a whole top 10 on this haunted doll, so go check it out in the other video if you haven't already. For those staying and don't know him, the story of Robert the Doll dates back to the early 1900s in Key West, Florida. A young boy named Eugene was given this doll and he named him Robert. Everything was good until the doll started to act super strange one night. On this night, Eugene woke up and looked at his bedside, and scary enough, the doll was facing and staring right into his eyes. Eugene's mother heard the boy scream, but as she was running to the room, she heard furniture banging all across the room. When she finally got into the room, it was completely wrangled up with Robert the Doll sitting on the edge of the bed. They then decided to lock Robert into the attic, but at night they would hear Robert's footsteps above them. Then when Eugene passed away, Robert the Doll claimed the life of a 10-year-old girl, and the girl's parents reported that the daughter would complain about hearing the doll at night and seeing it walk.
Halfway at number 5, Death Bridge. The Sunshine Skyway Bridge was a modern beauty when it opened in 1954. The bridge spans the mouth of Tampa Bay, connecting St. Petersburg on the north side with Bradenton on the south. But due to its height, it's also been an infamous spot for jumpers taking their own lives over the years. More than 200 people over the decade, according to some reports. Drivers on the bridge have also reported seeing a beautiful blonde hitchhiker on the bridge. When they pick her up, she begins to cry as the car approaches the top of the span. When the driver turns around to ask what's wrong, the woman has vanished. In 1980, the bridge was struck by a cargo ship, collapsing the central span and taking the lives of 36 people.
At our number 4 spot, we have the Pensacola Lighthouse. Legend says that a couple known for having constant fights owned the property. After a decade of living there, the lady randomly decided to take her husband's life, but she wasn't done yet. She proceeded to chop his body up in over 1,000 pieces and bury the pieces all around the lighthouse. The lighthouse's property also served as a place to treat Civil War soldiers, and many have passed away at the property as well. Visitors of the lighthouse claim to hear footsteps when no one else is there, and hearing their names being called throughout the whole building. Now, the site is being controlled by the United States Coast Guard, and they even allowed ghost hunters to investigate the area in an episode. Season 5, episode 5, if you guys are wondering.
Now at number 3, Sunland Hospital. Have you ever heard of Sunland Hospital in Orlando? It served as a tuberculosis hospital and later evolved into a training center for children with special needs. The facility closed after allegations of abuse and neglect and health code violations. The main patient building was turned into a park, and reports claim that ghostly patients still hang around. Park visitors reported hearing children's laughter when no children were around, and strange lights. Some also claim swings and other playground equipment moved by themselves. Apparently, after being torn down in 1999, all of that remains of the Sunland facility is the old administration Administration Building. There was a Sunland Hospital in Tallahassee too, but the location closed in the 80s after reports of experiments and an apparent lawsuit filed claiming abuse occurred at the hospital. The state of Florida then closed all Sunland facilities in 1983.
Two spot, we have the Bloody Bucket Bridge. Yeah, sounds really nice. During the time of the Civil War, an African American couple moved and settled in Wauchula, Florida. The woman worked as a midwife and she was pretty content with her situation. As time passed by, the wife started to act unstable, and it was all due to the memory of her own child being stripped from her life during the Civil War. Haunted by the event, she took it on her own to suffocate babies as they were being born, and what's worse is that she told the parents it was a stillbirth. Then it said that she would take the remains of the baby to her husband, who would help grind them up and place them in a bucket. Later, she would take these buckets to the bridge and dump them into the water, hence the Bloody Bucket Bridge. People claim that if you visit the bridge on a full moon night, the water will appear red in color, looking like the blood of the baby she took.
Now taking our number 1 spot, Devil's Tree. Inside Port St. Lucie's Oak Hammock Park sits an old oak tree that locals say is evil, or more accurately, that something evil occurred there and it still haunts the land. In 1971, before the park was established, Gerard Schaefer, an ex-deputy for the Broward County Sheriff's Office, assaulted and took the lives of 2 19-year-old girls, Paulette Goodenough and Barbara Ann Wilcox, then buried them beneath an old oak tree. He was then arrested for homicide and stabbed till he passed away in prison in 1995. The girls had been missing since January 8th, 1973, but their bodies weren't discovered until 1977, when 2 fishermen noticed bones protruding from the ground. Local legends and ghost stories about the area include claims of blood-curdling screams erupting from the surrounding woods, ghostly apparitions, and camera malfunctions near the Devil's Tree. Police have responded to numerous calls claiming devil worshippers in hooded robes were performing rituals there. In 1993, the local pastor conducted an exorcism and put up a cross at the site. Numerous efforts to cut the tree down failed when chainsaws malfunctioned or axes broke.
At a number 10 spot, we have the Night Marchers. According to Hawaiian lore, the Night Marchers were an ancient Hawaiian warriors in their past life, but their spirits march the island carrying torches now. But don't worry about hiding from them, because you'll definitely hear them well before you see them, as they play a distinctly loud drum while they march. They're believed to be stuck on the island for many different reasons. Some of the claims are they are looking to reclaim rightful territory or avenge a battle they had previously lost. These spirits are not entirely evil, but they do demand respect. For example, if you are unfortunate enough to cross paths with them, try your best not to interrupt. And I'll stress you not to look into their eyes, as you will meet your doom from even one glance from these warriors. Since they are ghosts, nothing can stop them from their path, not even buildings. So when you see them, do exactly this. Or another option is to lie down on the floor, but wouldn't you think that walking away is a better option? No? Anyone? At a number 9 spot, we have Morgan's Corner. This one takes place in the island of Oahu and is one of the most grisly murders on this list. Morgan's Corner got its name from a doctor who happened to live at this particular bend of the road. Then in 1948, it claimed that a couple of prisoners escaped the local prison and broke into a house looking for any sort of supplies. They broke into the home of 68-year-old Therese Wilder, who was below the home of Dr. James Morgan. They gagged her and later took her life by means of suffocation. Even though both of these criminals were caught and sent to jail, many say her screams for help can still be heard to this day. At number 8 spot, we have Pele, or the goddess of volcanoes, or she goes by another name called the woman who devours land, but I think that's a little bit too aggressive. It's said in Hawaii that every time a volcano erupts, it resembles Pele's longing to be with her true love. Her story varies, but the most popular rendition talks about a girl born in Tahiti who was sent away from her father because of her difficult temper and seducing her sister's husband. After leaving, she would encounter her sister once again, who took her life out of pure rage. This is when Pele became a full-fledged god before finding her home on a Hawaii island. Now it's said that if you remove the lava rocks on her island home, you will suffer years and years of bad luck and misfortune. And to this day, thousands of lava rocks are sent back to Hawaii due to people experiencing said bad luck. At number 7 spot, we have the Green Lady of Wahiwa. According to Hawaiian lore, a lady and her child would go to this botanical gardens often. Instead of taking their usual route on the bridge to go home, they decided to take the gulch because she feared of her children being struck by a car, since there was a fair amount of cars on the road at the time. When they took the gulch at night, the complex terrain separated the two, and the woman would end up losing her daughter. She looked everywhere in the ravine, but as nothing popped up, she went to the townsfolk for assistance, but no one wanted to help as it was very late at night. As she went back to look down once again, she ended up going missing as well. Now it's believed that she still roams the gulch covered in moss and vines with a distinct decaying smell, which is the reason why she is considered the Green Lady. She supposedly snatches children she finds in the area to fill the void she had from losing her daughter. And she's also spotted at the local elementary school acting as a mother picking up her own child. At a number 6 spot, we have the Koniana Cave. The Koniana Cave is located at the base of a cliff along the Farrington Highway of Oahu. The cave formed over 150,000 years ago. According to Hawaiian legend, Koniana Cave is home to the underground shark god Nanaue, the son of Komahoali, or the king of sharks, the most sacred brother of the fire goddess Pile. Nanaue was born with a mouth on his back and his mother never fed him meat, but when he was 7 he accidentally ate one and slowly would become this shark-like humanoid with razor-sharp teeth and gills. He had an appetite for human flesh after that and would use his cave as a lair until one of the day a group of villagers came down and hunted him down for good. Now it's said that if you see an elderly Hawaiian man cooking meat near a cave, it's actually the spirit of Nanaue. In the hump of our list we have the faceless ghost of Wale Drive-In Theater. Supposedly at the Wale Drive-In Theater, there's a faceless ghost of a woman who stands near the lady's bathroom combing her hair. When you get too close to her, she will toss her hair to the side to reveal her perfectly featureless face as smooth as polished stone. The drive-in is supposedly haunted by these ghosts because it was built to an old cemetery in Kahala, which has since been torn down and transformed into commercial and residential buildings. Reports of the faceless woman began on May 19, 1959, when the person who first spotted her was hospitalized after a mental breakdown. This would become big in local news and many would come to the theater in hopes to experience this tragedy. After, many women would be found unconscious on the restroom floor who were said to be approached by the faceless woman. At our number 4 spot were the Menehune. These Hawaiian mythical beings are said to be located deep within the forest of the island. These 3-foot tall beings are said to be experts at building, where legends say that they would build temples, fish ponds, roads, and even homes for the Hawaiians. According to lore, if you interrupt them when they are working, they will vanish out of thin air, but in some rare cases they come back to you with only negative intentions. A story goes that a group of teens went on a beach to have a bonfire. When they arrived, they noticed an odd looking shrine, but as they focused more on it, they noticed these little faces and shadows of little people in the forest behind it. Scared by this, the teens decided to find offerings to give to the shrine. One teen came out of the forest with an apple, running, after a group of Menehune started to circle him. All the teens managed to escape, but this incident remains a reminder not to mess with these beings. All the way at a number 3 spot, we have the Ilonani Palace. From scary sounds to unexplained apparitions, Inolawi Palace reigns high with paranormal activity. Built in 1882, the meticulously restored palace was once home to Hawaii's last ruling royalty, King Kalakaua, and his sister Queen Lilikuali. She was imprisoned in the palace within her bedroom for 8 months following the overthrow of the Hawaiian monarchy. Although the queen physically passed away in 1917, it's believed that her spirit, along with a few others, are still roaming the halls of the royal home. Visitors on tours and security guards on duty have reported hearing footsteps, smelling the scent of burning cigars, and seeing the silhouette of a woman standing in the window of what was once the queen's bedroom. At number 2 spot, we have the Daniel K. Inouye International Airport. This international airport, located in Honolulu, is considered one of the most haunted airports in all of America, and for good reason. The airport is said to be haunted by the lady in waiting, who is a blonde girl who wears a white dress and appears in areas where people aren't allowed. The story goes that a woman fell for a man who pledged to marry her, but at a random turn of events, he took back his promise and vanished out of thin air. After she suspected the man left on a flight, she went to that airport and took her own life in one of the bathrooms. Now it's said that her spirit still remains in the airport, but is more prevalent in the bathrooms, with reports of her slamming the toilet seats and tugging on people's clothes. At the airport is said another ghost who is known for choking guests. It's said that this ghost sits on the chest of others and gives them the sensation of choking. Guess I'm taking a boat on my next Hawaii trip. At a number 1 spot, we have the ghost of Pearl Harbor. The Pearl Harbor incident was known as the reason for America's entry into World War II. This happened on December 7, 1941, when the Japanese led an attack to destroy as many military and civilian vessels in Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. This attack caused the casualties of around 2,400 US personnel, including 68 civilians, and damaged or destroyed 19 US Navy ships, including 8 battleships. It's said that the spirits of those who passed still remain on Pearl Harbor to this day. One of the ghosts that can be spotted on the grounds is the ghost of a man named Charlie. When heavy doors begin to swing back and forth, or lights being flickered on and off, everyone who works there just says, quote, "That's just Charlie," as if it was some casual thing or something. Don't know about you, but I would expect everyone who passed away from this attack to become malevolent ghosts in the future, but I guess this one just got tired of it all. As people approach the shrine built to commemorate the event, many claim to feel the instant feeling of sadness and a pain feeling.
Starting off this countdown at number 10, the Stanley Hotel. One of the most famous haunts of Colorado is the Stanley Hotel. The Stanley, which served as the basis for Stephen King's The Shining, is more than a century old and is home to countless ghost sightings and unexplainable events. Multiple witnesses have seen a face peering out of the window of room 407 when it was unoccupied. One witness staying in the room reported that a light kept turning off and on. Allegedly, the guests acknowledged the ghost, assured him that they'd only be staying 2 days, and asked him to keep the light on. The spirit left the light alone after that, but proceeded to spend the rest of the night noisily playing around with the elevator just outside the door. Rooms 217, 401, and 418 have unusually high reports of paranormal activity. Cleaning crews tell of strange noises and seeing impressions on the bed when the rooms were empty. Guests in room 418 report that the sounds of children playing in the hall, but when those reports came in, there were no children checked into the hotel. Number 9, the Black Forest Haunting. In the early 1990s, Steve Lee moved his family into a log cabin home in the Black Forest region of northern Colorado. They rented it for a year before purchasing it, but once the land was theirs, things started getting weird. Initially, lights and electronic devices kept turning off and on, and eerie noises sometimes filled the air. This was followed by a strange odor that wafted through the cabin that burned the family's throats and eyes. Thinking these happenings were the work of pranksters, the Lee family installed motion detectors and cameras. However, the motion detectors would go off when nothing seemed to be happening on the cameras. Steve Lee added more cameras capturing more unexplainable phenomenon like orbs, beams of light, and sometimes ghostly forms with faces. The Lees could no longer pretend the cameras were the problem, and they contacted the show Sightings to document what became one of the most famous hauntings in America. The Sightings crew experienced and captured quite a bit of phenomena themselves. Cameras were knocked off tripods, one of their producers experienced an attempted possession, and a medium working with them determined there were multiple spirits in the house and a rift in space and time on the property. Number 8, the Vampire's Grave. European lore is rich in tales of vampires, yet one of those creatures may have found themselves in a small town in Colorado. Theodore Glava was a Transylvanian immigrant who moved to Colorado and became a coal miner. Legend says the man was tall and pale with a dark coat and long fingernails. In 1918, he passed away of the flu and was buried in the local cemetery, where some say they have seen his figure lurking at night. Some say that the tree guarding Glava's grave grew from the stake that was hammered into his heart post-mortem. Number 7, Butch Cassidy's Lost Gold. Butch Cassidy was one of the most infamous outlaws in Wild West history, and his life allegedly ended in a shootout in 1908, but it's said he left behind mementos of his acclaimed career. According to the rumors, Cassidy reportedly stashed thousands of dollars worth of gold in a hideout in an unassuming Irish canyon. If this is true, the gold may still be there to this day. Should you ever visit the Irish Canyon, keep a careful eye out and you may be the one to discover Cassidy's hidden treasure. Number 6, Route 666. The infamous Route 666, nicknamed the Devil's Highway, runs through Colorado. It was renumbered as Route 491 in 2003 in hopes of dispelling the fear surrounding the demonic numbers. However, changing the numbers didn't take away the unexplainable phenomena that occurred, and is still occurring on this cursed road. When it was still known as Route 666, this stretch of highway had an unusually high accident rate. People driving along the Devil's Highway have reported creepy incidences, such as a black Phantom sedan that follows dangerously close no matter how high the speed. Many have pulled over only to realize that there's no car behind them. There are also tales of a pack of hellhounds that terrorize innocent travelers. The beasts somehow manage to keep up with the vehicle regardless of how fast or recklessly the driver maneuvers the car. Many believe these hellhounds are responsible for shredding tires and causing terrible wrecks. Some have even claimed that the beasts are capable of jumping into the windows and mauling people. Halfway, number 5, the Riverdale Road. Riverdale Road runs through Thornton and is lined with creepy cottonwood trees, where you can allegedly see hanging bodies by the light of the full moon. A Camaro with no driver can also be spotted winding down this stretch of road. Riverdale Road also has its own Lady in White legend. Reportedly, visitors have seen this strange woman in their rearview mirror. Locals believe that she is a ghost who is looking for the spirits of her deceased children. Number 4, the Gates of Hell. According to local legend, the Gates of Hell lies near Riverdale Road in Thornton. Rumor has it that the stretch of road leads to rusted iron gates that open to a place of satanic worship and human sacrifices. Behind these gates also rest the charred ruins of an old mansion that leads directly to hell, people say. The mansion was built by David Woolpett during the gold rush. Over the years, the structure was used as a brothel, cowboy saloon, and a hippie commune before it was burned down in 1975. It's said that a man living in the mansion took his family's lives before setting the home on fire. This dark story has led people to believe that the grounds of the mansion are portals to the underworld. Number 3, the Hotel Colorado. The guests of the Hotel Colorado are often awoken in the night by by strange sounds and flickering lights. Some are plagued by sightings of a little girl wearing a Victorian-era dress, while others recount how their personal items were moved around or missing. Both bell tower suites are reportedly haunted, and the elevator seems to have a mind of its own at times. Stories tell of a female presence that has a habit of watching male guests as they sleep. The screams of a woman can also often be heard throughout the hotel, believed to belong to a deceased chambermaid. According to the lore, she was involved in a love triangle which ended with one of her lovers taking her life in one of the guest rooms, and her former room has been turned into a storage space because the paranormal activity within the room was said to be too intense to remain open to the public. Number 2, the Ridge Home Asylum. Every state has an abandoned asylum story, and this is Colorado's. Ridge Home admitted its first patient in 1912, and from there began a history full of controversy. Many of the home's residences were admitted despite still being mentally capable, but over time their mental states declined due to their confinement. Rumors that patients were unnecessarily medicated arose, and over time parts of the building closed due to unsafe living conditions. Finally, in 1992, the doors of Ridge Home Asylum closed for good, but that doesn't change the fact that the legend that some patients were mistreated there and passed away still remains to haunt people who try to explore the abandoned building. Now coming in at number 1, Hatchet Lady of Red Rocks. Red Rocks is a staple of Colorado and is a big deal for people who live there. But what if I told you it's home to some eerie and paranormal tales? Would you still want to see your favorite band play there, even when there's something lurking in the shadows watching your every move? Yeah, probably not. One of the more popular and well-known legends surrounding Red Rocks is that of the Hatchet Lady. She wasn't always known as the Hatchet Lady though. In fact, many stories say that this woman, old Mrs. Johnson, would pull a coat over her head and carry around a hatchet in order to ward off her daughter's suitors. Apparently, she wasn't a fan of young love. She of course has tales that make her into a headless ghost, that scare off couples who are getting a little too intimate in the shadows. Other myths believe that this Hatchet Lady was a homeless woman who lived in the area, like in a nearby cave in the 1950s, and instead of going after young lovers, she'd go after children. Any young kids who ended up a little too close for their liking would be executed, and she'd hide their bodies and severed limbs around the grounds. So word of advice, don't stray too far from the marked paths and stick together.
Coming in at a number 10 spot, we have the 13 Steps to Hell. Built in 1901, the Maltby Cemetery in Woodinville, Washington is said to be one of the go-to cemeteries if you want to experience some sort of supernatural activity. The most famous legend about the cemetery is the story of the 13 Steps to Hell. And I know how that sounds. The stairs appeared to lead nowhere and descended into the ground as they are located in the center of a cemetery. They allegedly led to an underground family tomb. Even though you were only a few feet away, it was said that when you went down the stairs, you abruptly lost your ability to hear anything above you. It is said that if you turn around and face the bottom of the stairs, you could catch a glimpse of hell itself. Local lore claims that occasionally people would descend down these stairs and just never come back. Even though the steps were removed many years ago, there are still stories concerning them. At number 9 spot, we have the Caddy of Cadborough Bay. Wait, did you think we could escape the Loch Ness Monster? Cause we really can't. There's one in every single state, and for Washington, they have the Cadborosaurus, nicknamed the Caddy. It is said to be a 20-foot long serpent creature that inhabits the northern part of the west coast. It's described as having the head of a horse and the body of a very large eel. Eyewitnesses reports have been coming in for the past 200 years with 300 different sightings. Even the Inuit people drew this creature on their canoes in hopes they would ward it off once they entered into the water. As with all these Loch Ness Monster hypes, many people claim to have found and captured it, but eventually it gets to the point when you can't even tell what's real and what's fake. At number 8 spot, we're the Black Cat of Stevens Hall. Built in 1895 in Pullman, Washington, the Stevens Hall was once praised as the quote, most famous attractive building on the campus. But once people stepped foot inside, they took back these claims. Kinda like when you meet someone who is physically attractive, but has a terrible personality. This is that place. It started as a hangout spot for students at Washington State University, and here they would dance, drink, and tell stories to one another. One famous story told at the hall was Edgar Allan Poe's The Black Cat. It was read on Halloween every single year until one year the students believed the story had come to life. Eventually, many would see sightings of a black cat inside of the Stevens Hall. Then on one Halloween, the black cat stood in front of the house's mother's door, and when the students opened the door to see what the black cat was hiding, they found that a girl had passed away, and many believed it was caused by this black cat. At a number 7 spot, we have the Iron Goat Trail. In 1893, a railroad was constructed across the Cascades of Washington. This would be great news because it would finally mean that Seattle would be connected with the Midwest and many other states. Except once trains started to use this railroad, they ran into many problems. To begin with, trains with engines on each end had to struggle up switchbacks to reach the summit. And the worst part about this place was that since it was in the mountains, snow could reach up to 25 feet high in some places, which would have have hundreds of people digging out the snow in order for the train to go through. Then in February 1920, the deadliest avalanche in American history hit the railroad. It derailed trails and killing a total of 96 people in the process. And at the time, the rescue mission was nearly impossible due to the extreme weather conditions present on the mountain. Now many hikers come across the area where the accident occurred, and many find themselves leaving immediately the moment they get there. This is because some hikers have reported hearing noticeable screams coming from the tunnels, while others have spotted the apparitions of men screaming for help. All of these components make this place one of Washington State's most haunted places. At number 6 spot, we have Port Townsend, Washington. Considered to be one of America's most haunted cities, Port Townsend definitely has a dark history to back up that claim. The thing about this place is that paranormal activity isn't in a single building or two, but they say that the spirits roam freely around the town, and there's not a place in town where you won't have the chance to see a ghost. For example, the Manresa Castle located in the city was once visited by ghost adventurers, and they supposedly captured children's laughter on film, as well as feeling as though something or someone was pressing against them the whole time. Then we have the Palace Hotel, which used to be known as the Palace of Suites due to the women who used to live there. But many visitors claim these women never left. They say a woman in blue exposes herself to guests and staff members, while the other spirits try to play pranks on the other people. In the hump of our list, we have the Maury Island incident. Weeks before the infamous Roswell accident, Red Chrisman and Harold Dahl had their own encounter that shocked many people at the time. It all started on June 24, 1947, when pilot Kenneth Arnold claimed to see a string of 9 shiny unidentified flying objects traveling around 1,200 miles per hour near Mount Rainier. Many people have said they have seen the UFOs flying as well. Eventually, the story would be relayed to Red Chrisman and Harold Dahl, who both claimed to have fragments from the supposed UFO. When they interviewed Harold, he would go on to say, quote, "On June 21st, 1947, in the afternoon around 2 o'clock, I was patrolling the east bay of Maury Island. I, as captain, was steering my patrol boat close to the shore of the bay of Maury Island. On board were 2 crewmen, my 50-year-old son, and his dog. As I looked up from the wheel of my boat, I noticed 6 very large donut-shaped aircraft." Eventually, the FBI started to investigate and stated this incident was a hoax. But who knows? This really wouldn't be the last time the US government was hiding UFOs. At number 4, we have the infamous Bigfoot. Yes, the hairy creature had to make its way onto this list simply because this is the state where it was first documented and popularized. To this day, this is the state where the most sightings are recorded, so it's either everyone is lying in Washington or they may actually have a Bigfoot in their woods. Bigfoot has gained worldwide attention, but for those who don't know, they're basically 7 to 8 feet tall hairy humanoids with extreme strength. To this day, the search for Bigfoot is still a mystery, and there hasn't been solid evidence to prove the general public that these beasts actually exist. But hey, if you live in Washington, you have the best chance of actually discovering one, but that outcome would probably be a lot more different than you would think. At number 3 spot, we have Tacoma Old City Hall. Serving as City Hall in the early 20th century, this 10-story clock tower is haunted by a single prankster ghost named Gus. Many don't know the origins of this ghost, but it was said that he may have been a former criminal that was held in the building's Old City Jail and even passed away there. So as I mentioned, this building served as City Hall until 1957. This was a time when the City Hall was being neglected, no maintenance, and no payments. So eventually the building was too unsafe to work in, causing everyone to be kicked out. Nowadays, visitors of the old City Hall claim that prankster ghosts have taken over the entire building. For example, Gus is known to toss objects in the air at random. He's also known to turn on lights on and off, and sometimes he would completely shatter light bulbs. At one point, the sightings were so frequent, the police believed it was a person trespassing the property. But after further investigation, it was discovered that no one was trespassing the property. At a number 2 spot, we have the Kells Irish Pub. Considered to be a family-friendly bar/restaurant, the Kells Irish Restaurant and Pub is said to be one of the most haunted eateries in the entire nation. To start, the pub is located in the Butterworth building, which was a former mortuary. So you kinda know where this story is going. This would basically mean that the entire building was used to store deceased bodies. Throughout the years, many spirituals have been brought to the Butterworth building in an attempt to initiate meaningful communication with the alleged spirits who remain there, including both a Catholic priest and a voodoo priestess. Nowadays, visitors report sightings of a ghost of a young girl dressed in a scarlet velvet dress. Others have spotted the ghost of an older man named Charlie, who would appear at random throughout the entire building. At number 1 spot, we have Mount Baker Theater. Opening up in 1927, the Mount Baker Theater in Bel Bellingham was haunted from day one. Unidentified sounds, chilly spots, strange disembodied voices, balls of light, and even the odd apparition are just a few of the stories that have been noted here. As well, many visitors have reported the ghost of a young woman named Judy. It's said that she has crushes on male visitors and will choose to usher them into their seats if she does have a crush on them. People know it's Judy when they begin to hear their name across the floor and feel as though someone is touching them on the back or their shoulders. Another spirit trapped in this place is a cat that is found in the basement of the theater. Many claim that whenever they go to the basement and they catch a glimpse of this cat, something bad is bound to happen, as with many other black cat theories. Oddly enough, Mount Baker Theater keeps a ghost light on stage during the off hours, claiming that they ward off the evil ones from the theater, but who really knows if it works like they say they do. At our number 10 spot, we have the LaLaurie Mansion. According to the story, the LaLaurie Mansion in New Orleans was home to a wealthy and socialite named Delphine LaLaurie, who was known for her lavish parties, but on the other side, she was also known for her cruel treatments of her slaves. The legend of LaLaurie Mansion began in the early 1800s when Delphine was rumored to have inflicted terrible atrocities on her slaves. This included torture, mutilation, and even murder. It is said that she kept a secret room in the mansion where she performed these horrific acts, and that the ghosts of her victims still haunt the property to this day because of this. One of the most famous stories associated with the mansion involves a fire that broke out at the property in 1834. As the fire raged, neighbors and passerbys reported seeing slaves who were chained and shackled, screaming and begging for help from the windows of the burning mansion. When the fire was finally extinguished, the bodies of several slaves were found in the ruins, including one who had been hanged and another one who had been disemboweled. Over the years, the LaLaurie Mansion had gained a reputation as one of the most haunted houses in the United States, and it's said to be visited by ghost hunters and paranormal investigators from all over the world. Even Nicolas Cage owned the home for some reason, but probably because of the infamous story around it. Many claim to have experienced strange and unexplained phenomena at the mansion, including unexplained noises, cold spots, and the feeling of being watched. Some have said that they've seen the ghosts of Delphine LaLaurie's victims wandering the halls of the mansion, still trapped in their chains and shackles that held them captive in life, and now it holds them captive in death as well. Many people are drawn to the mansion out of morbid curiosity, hoping to catch a glimpse of the ghosts that are said to inhabit it, while others are simply drawn to the dark and eerie history of the property. Regardless of the reasons, the LaLaurie Mansion remains a fascinating and mysterious place and will be forever remembered as the most haunted home in New Orleans. At a number 9 spot, we have the Grunch. The Grunch Road Monster is an alleged chupacabra sighting in New Orleans, Louisiana that has captivated the imagination of local residents for centuries. The Grunch is described as an elaborate cross between a canid and reptilian chupacabra and is said to be more intelligent and adaptable to its surroundings than its counterparts in other parts of the world. According to the local folklore, the Grunch has leathery or scaly skin with sharp spines or quills running down its back, and it stands at a height of 3 to 4 feet tall. It is said to have a strong and unpleasant smell, and they are said to be able to use tools and open doors like primates. Some reports have suggested that it has wings and a tail as well. The Grunch is known for its aggressive behavior and has been reported to attack animals and humans alike, leaving behind mutilated corpses. There are various stories about the origins of the Grunch, including a legend involving a voodoo queen named Marie Laveau. According to the story, Marie Laveau castrated the devil baby when he was born, and the result was a male and female Grunch falling to the floor. The Grunch then attacked Marie Laveau, nearly killing her before disappearing. The legend is said to be the reason why Marie Laveau gave up her voodoo practices and returned to being a good Catholic woman. At number 8 spot, we have the Rougarou. The legend of the Rougarou has been part of the folklore of the Cajun people of Louisiana. This mysterious creature is said to roam the swamps and bayous of the region, preying on those who dare to venture out into the wilderness at night. According to the legend, the Rougarou is a werewolf-like creature with the ability to transform into a wolf or human at will. It is said to be incredibly fast and agile, able to move through the dense undergrowth of the swamp with ease. Some versions of the legend describe the Rougarou as a supernatural being that is cursed to roam the earth, while others portray it as a human who has made a pact with the devil in exchange for the power of transformation. The Rougarou is said to be a formidable and terrifying creature to those who encountered it, and those who have seen it it in real life have said had glowing red eyes, sharp teeth, and a bloodthirsty desire for human flesh. Those who encounter the Rougarou are said to be at great risk of being attacked and dying, and many people in the Cajun community still take great care to avoid the swamps and bayous at night for fear of encountering this creature. Despite its reputation, the Rougarou is also a powerful symbol in Cajun folklore. It is often used to warn people of the dangers that lurk in the wilderness, especially not to visit them at night. Some people believe that the Rougarou is a real creature that exists in the wetlands, while others just see it as a myth or a symbol of the unknown. Regardless of whether or not it's real, the Rougarou remains an important part of the cultural heritage of the Cajun people, and its legend continues to be told and passed down through the generation. Number 7. The vampire Comte de Saint-Germain. The legend of Jacques Saint-Germain, also known as the Count of Saint-Germain, has captivated and puzzled people for centuries. According to the legend, Saint-Germain was a mysterious and charismatic figure who appeared in New Orleans in the 1900s and claimed to be a descendant of the Comte de Saint-Germain, which was a historical figure from the 18th century with ties to King Louis himself. The Comte de Saint-Germain was rumored to be immortal and not to age past 40, and it was suggested that Jacques Saint-Germain was also immortal, suggesting that he may be a vampire. In addition to his supposed immortality, Saint-Germain was also rumored to exhibit vampire-like behavior. One instance of this was when he allegedly attacked a woman and bit her neck, causing her to jump from his balcony to escape. When the police arrived to investigate, they found bloodstains on tablecloths throughout his home, as well as bottles mixed with wine and blood. Even at parties, Saint-Germain was never reportedly seen eating and was always holding a glass of red liquid, which some people suspected was blood. Despite these strange occurrences, Saint-Germain remained a respected and well-liked member of the community. However, he eventually disappeared as mysteriously as he arrived, leaving behind only a trail of rumors and legends. To this day, the true identity and nature of Jacques Saint-Germain remains a mystery. While some believe that he was a real person with supernatural powers, others believe he was just purely a legend and a myth. At a number 6 spot, we have the Carter brothers. The city of New Orleans is known for once having the Carter brothers named John and Wayne. These two men are said to have been vampires sometime in the 1930s. According to the legend, the pair would capture their victims and hold them in their shared home, where they would drain and drink their blood. So one day in the early 1930s, a young girl managed to escape from the Carter home and ran frantically down the streets until a police officer spotted her. She told the officer that she and others had been held captive in the Carter house with their wrists cut to enable a slow bleed. The girl either took the officer back to the Carter home or was rushed to the hospital, depending on the version of the story. When the police arrived at the Carter home, they discovered the bodies of over a dozen victims with their wrists slit and their blood drained. There are also at least 4 captives still tied up and bleeding from their wrists at the home. Some of the bodies were wrapped in sheets and all appeared as though they had been there for extended periods of time. In some versions of the legend, the police left 10 of their largest officers in the apartment to take on the alleged vampires when they returned to feed at night. When the brothers returned home that night, it reportedly took 7 to 8 officers to subdue them. Upon their arrest, the Carter brothers allegedly admitted to becoming vampires and asked to be killed, as they would continue to capture and drink the blood of their victims. They were tried and executed for their crimes, but many believe that they continue to haunt the streets of New Orleans, taking their place in the city's grand lore. The legend of the Carter brothers serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of monsters hiding in plain sight and the horrors that can lurk within the walls of even the most normal looking homes. In the hump of our list, we have the Bonnie and Clyde ambush site. The Bonnie and Clyde ambush site is a location where the notorious criminal duo Bonnie Parker and Clyde Barrow were ambushed and killed by law enforcement in 1934. The site is located in Bienville Parish, Louisiana, near the town of Gibbsland. Bonnie and Clyde were known for their string of robberies and murders during the Great Depression, and they became infamous as symbols of the era's lawlessness and social upheaval. On May 23, 1934, Bonnie and Clyde were driving through Louisiana when they were ambushed by a group of law enforcement officers who had been tracking them down for months. The officers fired over 130 rounds at the couple's vehicle, killing them both. Bonnie and Clyde's bodies were then taken to a funeral home in Arcadia, Louisiana, where they were publicly displayed before being buried in Dallas, Texas. Ever since, the ambush site has been a popular attraction, but not for all the good reasons. Because it's reported that on a full moon, you can still hear gunshots and faint screaming from the area, as though the incident is playing out again and again in some other dimension. At a number 4 spot, we have the Voodoo Queen. Mary Laveau was a well-known figure in New Orleans, Louisiana in the 19th century. She was a powerful and influential figure in the city's voodoo community and was often referred as the Voodoo Queen. Laveau was born in New Orleans in 1801 and she was descended from a long line of voodoo practitioners. She was known for her knowledge of herbal medicine and she was said to be able to cure a variety of ailments through the use of various potions and spells. Laveau was also said to have the ability to communicate with the spirits, and many believe that she had the power to cast spells and curses on those who crossed her. Despite her reputation as a powerful and feared figure, Laveau was more so known for her charitable works and her willingness to help those in need. She was known to provide assistance to the poor and the sick, and she was highly respected within the voodoo community. Laveau's influence and fame extended beyond the voodoo community, and she was known to be visited by the people of all walks of life, including politicians and celebrities. She passed away in 1881, and ever since, many claim that if you visit her grave at the St. Louisville Cemetery and place a rose on her grave at midnight, there's a good chance your body will begin to levitate. At a number 3 spot, we have Le Faux Follet. Le Faux Follet, or the Will-o'-the-Wisp, is a term used in Louisiana folklore to describe a ghostly light that is said to appear in swamps, marshes, and other remote or isolated areas. According to the local legend, it is a mischievous spirit that lures travelers off their path or into danger, often with the intention of causing them harm. In some versions of the legend, it is said to be the spirit of a person who passed away from violent or premature death and is unable to rest until it has fulfilled some unfinished business or desire. This spirit is said to manifest itself as a glowing light that moves erratically and seems to have a life of its own. In some versions of the legend, it is simply a malevolent entity that delights in causing confusion and chaos for others. Despite its reputation, it is often depicted as a small glowing light that is difficult to discern from a distance. Some believe it can only be seen to those who are lost or in danger, while others claim that it appears only at night or in a foggy or misty condition. Many believe it is a sign of danger or misfortune, and that encountering it is a telltale sign of bad luck or even death. At number 2 spot, we have the Myrtles Plantation. The Myrtles Plantation in St. Francisville, Louisiana is a historic plantation home that is rumored to be haunted by the ghosts of former slaves who were executed on the property. Built in the late 1700s, the plantation has a long and dark history, including several instances of murder and violence. One of the most well-known ghosts at the Myrtles Plantation is said to be that of a former slave named Chloe, who was executed by her fellow slaves after she was caught eavesdropping on their conversations. She is said to haunt the plantation house, where she is often seen walking through the rooms and the corridors. Some people have reported seeing her ghost, while others have reported hearing strange noises and feeling a presence in the house. Adding on to the tragedy of the home, the plantation's original owner, Clark Woodruff, was poisoned by his wife, who was later acquitted of her crime. Then another former owner, Judge Hardy, was shot and murdered on the property. These events, along with the many other tragic stories associated with the plantation, are said to contribute to its reputation as a haunted house. No wonder this is a haunted house. At a number 1 spot, we have the Honey Island Swamp Monster. The Honey Island Swamp Monster is a cryptid that is said to inhabit the Honey Island Swamp in Louisiana. It is described as a large humanoid with brown or black fur, long arms, and a barrel-shaped body. Some reports have described the creature as having the face that resembles a monkey or a human, while others have described it as having a more reptilian or amphibious appearance with alligator qualities. The legend of the Honey Island Swamp Monster dates back to the early 20th century, when it was first reported by a group of hunters who claimed to have encountered it by the swamp. Since then, there has been numerous reports of the creature reported by people who claim to have encountered it while exploring the place or living in the surrounding area. It was blamed for the many human and livestock deaths that occurred around this area, and ever since, people feared this monster to the point that they wouldn't even enter anywhere close to these swamps. There's been various theories purports to explain the existence of this monster, including the possibility that it is a surviving population of a prehistoric creature, or even a new species of animals that has yet to be discovered by science. Others believe that the creature was raised alongside alligators from a homeless orphan who lived in the area. Regardless, the Honey Island Swamp Monster remains a mystery and is feared by everyone who lives near it.
Starting off at number 10, Gitche-Manitou Murders. The Gitche-Manitou is a nature preserve just southeast of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, in the northeastern corner of Iowa that many believe is haunted. It has ancient Native American burial grounds, has witnessed the execution of 4 teens, and has been the site of an assault of a young child. In November of 1973, 5 teens from Sioux Falls went out camping in the area. The unsuspecting group was sitting by a fire with some green leafy substances when suddenly a shotgun went off. Roger SM, who was 17, instantly passed away by brothers Alan, David, and James Fryer, who descended on the group pretending to be cops. They separated the remaining 3 boys from the only girl, 13-year-old Sandra Chesky, and placed the girl in the back of their truck. Then the Fryer brothers lined up Stuart Bade, 15, with his little brother Dana Bade, 14, and friend Michael Hardoth, who was 15, and executed them. The little girl was kept alive and taken advantage of by James Fryer. She later identified the attackers and testified against them. They were sentenced to life in prison, but locals on both sides, Iowa and South Dakota, believe their horrible crimes still haunt the area. Number 9, Spook Road. Known to locals as Spook Road, this eerie stretch just outside of Brandon, South Dakota has quite the collection of creepy occurrences. Winding through tunnels, running over bridges, and lined in trees, locals claim this road is especially unnerving in the fall of winter months. There are many theories about the road, including one claim if you drive away from the town and count the number of turns, and then drive back and count them, you will end up with different numbers. Like driving in one direction will take you over 5 bridges, but on the way back you'll only cross 4. As if this wasn't weird enough, many cars have also wrecked on this road, which often leaves drivers with an unsettled feeling. While some people believe Spook Road is mere folklore, others will defend it to the end, with some die-hard believers even creating a Facebook group about Spook Road. Allegedly, people who also take their own lives here can still be seen hanging from both bridges and the trees, their bulging eyes watching you as you cross in horror. Number 8, Orpheum Theater. In Sioux Falls, South Dakota sits the historic Orpheum Theater with its very own ghost. The spirit, fondly referred to as Larry, may or may not be the ghost of an actor who disappeared during a dress rehearsal many years ago. Allegedly, the sound of a gunshot rang out from the light booth. When his fellow actors ran up to investigate, all that remained was a pool of blood and no body was ever found. The theater first opened in 1913 but changed hands in 1954. The new owners allegedly found a casket in the boiler room, but when they came back later to clean things out, the casket was gone. Reports of strange noises and sightings of a shadow figure became common in the old theater, and one of the more intriguing reports happened in 1959. Actor Ray Loftusness became one of the many to see this shadow man on the balcony. On that particular night, he said Larry was illuminated by the green and blue lights that was pointing directly at him. He claimed that he was hit by an icy blast of air. Then twice that night, he was assaulted by falling sandbags and was even knocked unconscious. Number 7, Sika Hollow. The Dakota Sioux Native Americans were said to have once hunted in the forest ravines known as Sika Hollow. That is, until they realized it was haunted and put a warning on its name. Sika means evil, and there are several legends that have come out of the state park. It's believed evil is steeped into every nook and cranny of this area, which is why water runs red in the Sika Hollow Springs. Never mind the mineral content, it's pure evil. The path referred to as the Trial of Spirits has bubbling red bogs and was believed by the Sioux to be the flesh and blood of their ancestors. Between all the red water, swamp gas, and tree stumps glowing in the dark, it's no wonder they thought this place was evil. Perhaps they were right. There was a rash of mysterious disappearances in the 1970s. Paired with sightings of a half-man, half-beast similar to Bigfoot in these woods. Even today, visitors have claimed to see spirits of Indians in addition to hearing voices, war cries, and chanting. This one certainly seems terrifying for sure, and definitely not a place I would want to visit. Number 6, 1880 train haunting. The 1880 train that runs through Hill City is rumored to be another one of the most haunted places in South Dakota. While some of the train cars are used at the current tourist attraction, many remain abandoned. Some employees have specifically mentioned seeing a man standing in the back of the eating car, only to disappear seconds later. It said that the man was crossing the tracks and accidentally got stuck and unfortunately passed away while trying to break free, and his soul now haunts the train that took his life. Trains didn't really freak me out before, but now hearing this story, I'm pretty freaked out. Halfway at number 5, Walking Sam. The Pine Ridge Indian Reservation has had an alarmingly high rate of people taking their own lives amongst their youth, and it's believed an urban legend is responsible for this. The land is being stalked by an evil, an ancient entity that takes the form of Walking Sam, like the Tall Man, Slender Man, and the long-feared Stickman. This creature feeds on the living, infecting their minds and altering their thoughts. In the case of Walking Sam, his evil bidding is collecting the souls of people who take their own lives so he doesn't have to wander the earth alone. He stands around 7 feet tall, has no mouth, and has gangly limbs. When his arms are outstretched, you can see the bodies of Lakota men and women hanging from them. Since December of 2014, Pine Ridge has had 103 attempts of people trying to take their own life, with 9 people unfortunately succeeding. The youngest was only 12 and the oldest was just 24. Thankfully, church leader Pastor John Tubals discovered and prevented one of these plans from being carried out. He and a few other adults found a group of teenagers with rope already hanging from the trees. Another group of teens, all female, tried to carry out a similar plan but were stopped in time. But no one has been able to answer the biggest question: why? Tribe leaders, local mental health professionals, and law enforcement are scratching their heads on what is causing this. Number 4. Little Devils. The Spirit Mound near Vermilion has been long feared by Native Americans. They wouldn't dare go near it because of the legend of the Little Devils, who guard the mounds, attacking anyone who tries to climb them with magic arrows. The legend was first documented in 1804 and tells of the massacre that makes the mounds taboo today. However, people say it seems to have existed since long before then. Somewhere around the mid-18th century, hundreds of Indian warriors allegedly attempted to rid the world of evil little creatures, but it was they who ended up slaughtered instead. So now they stay away and leave the mounds to Little Devils. Number 3. Hookie Jack. A famous ghost in Rapid City, South Dakota is Hookie Jack. In life, his name was John Leary, but after a mining explosion in the 1800s, he lost both of his arms and one eye. His arms were replaced with hooks, hence the name Hookie Jack. He became a Rapid City police officer, but tragically passed away after being struck by a car in 1926. Now his spirit is said to haunt his former residence, which has since been converted into a tavern. According to legend, Hookie Jack lived on the 3rd floor and can still be heard roaming up there today. Employees don't even want to venture to that floor unless they absolutely must. Many employees have even refused to work the closing shift alone. Voices, rattling, and eerie sounds can all be heard upstairs at night. Strange flashing lights and spirit orbs have been caught on security footage. Multiple witnesses have seen chairs, tables, and the billiard balls moving around the table on their own. A few bartenders even claim to have seen a figure sit at the end of the bar out of the corner of their eye, only to look up and realize no one's there. Number 2. Devil's Gulch. One of the most famous urban legends in South Dakota happened in the town of Garriston. According to the local lore, infamous outlaw Jesse James successfully evaded capture in 1876 by leaping over the Devil's Gulch on horseback. Keep in mind that the Devil's Gulch is a ravine that runs 60 feet deep and is 20 feet wide. Jumping over something that massive without spooking a horse is highly improbable, and most historians would say it's impossible, but that doesn't stop locals from swearing it happened. Number 1. Hotel Alex Johnson. A hotel so surely haunted they actually advertise it right on their website. Come take a tour or stay at this haunted mansion. One of the main ghosts claimed to be seen here is the hotel's namesake, Alex Johnson himself. It is said that he comes around to make sure the hotel is still running well, but does he have any malicious intent? Why don't you book a stay and test the theory yourself?
At a number 10 spot, we have the Torch Lake Monster. This one is pretty much well known all over Michigan, but for those who don't know, the tale of the Torch Lake Monster dates back to the early 1960s and 70s. Obviously, it takes place in Torch Lake, which is located in North Michigan, and it also is the 2nd largest lake in the state. A fisherman and coach by the name of Dave Foley is credited with spotting the creature first and telling the stories of it since he worked by the lake for a while. Legend goes that the giant creature has a lizard's body, the head of a cat, one brown eye, and one blue eye, along with slimy green skin. The lake is approximately 285 feet deep, which makes what lies underneath much more scary and worrisome. Nighttime is when this creature is said to arise from the depths. At this time, many swimmers and boats go missing, only to wash ashore with no evidence of its demise. At a number 9 spot, we have the singing sands of Beat Gris. Located just past Lac La Belle, Michigan, is a beautiful white sandy beach known as Beat Gris. In a direct translation, this means gray beast, and that's because a large gray creature was said to have inhabited the area many years ago, but that's not even the story I'm going to talk about. Local legends claim that the pure white sand of the beach sings by pressing down your palms on it, or it barks when you strike it. The sound is said to be the voice of a Native American maiden who lost her lover when he drowned in the Great Lakes, and now she calls him on shore. The sand is said to lose its magical singing power when it's removed from the beach. Now visitors claim to hear the singing sounds, but as many try to bring the sound back home, they are met with years of unlimited bad luck, which lead many to bring it back to the beach to allow it to sing again. Other than sand that makes sounds, at a number 8 spot with the Belle Isle's Lady in White. In Detroit, Michigan, there's an island called Belle Isle. This 982-acre island is used for picnics, hikes, and home of the only marble lighthouse. Other than that, everything else on this island is shrouded in mystery and up for speculation. Legend of the island follows the story of a chief's daughter and a haunting bridge. The chief was concerned that his daughter's beauty would attract vast amounts of suitors, so to combat this, he made a deal with the snake goddess of the island. The chief asked the goddess to protect his daughter. The goddess would agree, but not for nothing. She would ask for the daughter to live out the rest of her days on the island to protect it, never being able to leave it. And to this day, the daughter is said to stay on this island and walk it, with many visitors reporting that she would try to lure them into the forest by telling them that she is looking for someone and just needs help. She supposedly takes her victims to the bridge to drown them, and it's said that if you go on this bridge and honk 3 times, she will appear just before your eyes. At number 7 spot, with the Nain Rouge. It's said that since the city of Detroit was founded in Michigan, bad luck has befallen the area. This is all because of the devilish red imp known as the Nain Rouge had cursed the entire city. Local folklore suggests that the Detroit's founder, Antoine de la Mothe Cadillac, was warned by a fortune teller that he would come face to face with the Nain Rouge and to treat him with the most utmost respect and attention. Except this information came straight this year and right out the other, because when he finally met with this creature, he hit it with his crane and told it to stay out of his way. This is when the angry Nain Rouge cursed the city of Detroit and Cadillac. Shortly after this, Cadillac would lose his fortune and move back to France, but misfortune still occurred in the city. It's said that in all disastrous events that happened in Detroit, the Nain Rouge could be spotted just before all of them. For example, in 1763, 50 British soldiers perished from Native Americans, after which the Nain Rouge could be seen dancing in the aftermath in joy. Then in the surrender of the war in 1812, the Nain was blamed again for its presence. It had also been seen during Detroit's riots of 1967 and 1976's ice storm that caused electricity to go out for days. At a number 6 spot, with the Masonic Temple. Currently standing as the largest Masonic temple in the world, it also stands as one of the most haunted places in all of Michigan. The temple, designed by George D. Mason, is an imposing Gothic structure at the corner of Bagg Street, later Temple Street, and 2nd Avenue, across from Cass Park. The temple has over 1,000 rooms, secret stairways, and concealed passages, but unfortunately Mason would go a little too far in this construction, where it would cause him to go bankrupt, eventually losing his wife in the process. His depression slowly kicked in, and then he would jump off the roof of this temple to his death. And to this day, security guards claim to see old George's ghost climbing those steps to the rooftop. Visitors also reported many noises such as doors and windows being slammed shut. They also see moving shadows and experience cold spots all around the area, all while feeling as if they're being watched by something. Right in the hub of our list, we have the Michigan Triangle. Well, guess Michigan has their own version of Bermuda's Devil Triangle, and it contains just as much unexplained phenomena as Bermuda. The triangle goes from Manawak, Wisconsin to Ludington to Benton Harbor in Michigan. It was in early spring 1937 when Captain Donner was just managing his freighter ship called the O.S. McFarland through these icy waters. He was so tired, so he decided to go to sleep and asked for one of the crewmates to wake him up when they approached shore. As they did, they noticed his room was locked, so they looked around, but nothing. They then kicked the door down and found that he vanished with no signs whatsoever. Now the triangle claims the lives of many ships and planes just like Bermuda. People have also cited the O.S. McFarland, but as they try to get a closer look, it disappears into the waters. An odd thing about this place is when divers go to check the wreckages of ships and planes, they notice that everything is still intact, including the bodies of the deceased and the ship as a whole. This is by far the scariest triangle because there is no way around it other than land. So basically, there's no point in traveling in Michigan's Great Lakes. At our number 4 spot is Hell's Bridge. Back in the early 1900s, an old deranged man named Elias Friss led a group of kids to the bridge and proceeded to murder each and every single one of them, slowly throwing them into the river below. Eventually, he was caught and hung by the towns. Before he passed away, he made a confession claiming that he did this because he was possessed by the devil and they told him to do it. To this day, a lot of visitors to the bridge hear the screams and the cries from the children just before they pass away. People have also said that when they get home from this place, they find bruises on their body as if someone was reaching out to grab them or hit them. The worst part is that if you walk on this bridge at night, you can feel hands below you as if they're grabbing you from the river below. And at the end of the bridge, you might encounter Elias as a dark figure with glowing eyes, so you won't miss him in the dead of night. In more lesser known news, apparently you're able to sell your soul to the devil by meeting the devil in the middle of this bridge. I mean, it's called Hell's Bridge. What else did we expect? At our number 3 spot, we have the Dogman. The Dogman is described as a 7-foot tall, amber-eyed, bipedal, canine-like creature, and he has the head of a dog with the body and torso of a human. Ever since its original sighting in 1887, many more sightings were spotted all over Michigan. It's primarily spotted in the northwestern quadrant of the Lower Peninsula. Back to its original sighting back in 1887. This is when the Dogman was discovered by 2 lumberjacks who saw this creature in the distance. Things got a little more concerning when in 1936, 1937, Robert Forney was attacked by 5 wild dogs, describing that of one of the dogs allegedly stood up like a bipedal and was significantly larger than all the other dogs. This legend got more popular when disc jockey Steve Cook recorded a song called The Legend, which describes the Michigan's Dogman. Although the artist claims it was made for an April Fool's joke, this kickstarted the entire legend, and sightings of the Dogman would only rise after the song was released. At a number 2 spot with Melonhead. Locals' fear of humanoids called the Melonheads. First theorized in the 1970s, Melonheads are said to be completely bald with misshapen bulbous heads, deformed arms and legs, teeth like daggers, and luminous red eyes. Legend goes that Melonheads reside around Felt Mansion, which is home to Dora Felt, who is an American inventor. The Melonheads were said to be the children suffering from hydrocephalus, which causes your head to expand in some cases. They were located at the Junction Insane Asylum near the home, and it's said that they endured months and months of abuse, and that one day they decided to escape and run into the forests of Michigan, where they became animal-like and very feral. Many of these Melonheads are said to be looking for the doctor who failed to care for them in order to take his life. At a number 1 spot, we have Eloy Psychiatric Hospital. Located in Westland, Michigan, it was named after Detroit's postmaster Elois Davik. In 1839, it started as a poorhouse and a farm where the poor, the sick, and the needy would go for shelter and work. As time went on, the poorhouse transitioned into a psychiatric asylum and hospital. The buildings were self-sufficient, even having their own police. They were even one of the first hospitals in the world to use x-rays for diagnosis, so at least one good thing came out of here. At its peak, the place housed over 10,000 patients and over 2,000 staff members. After its closure in 1984, the hospital's abandoned grounds are said to have a few patients still left inside of it. Ghost patients, that is. There have been reports of people finding medical waste and other strange items. Some have reported finding jars containing human body parts, as well as documents outlining strange medical procedures.